Welcome to the program. I'm Anjanette Damon, and this is To the Point. We've had a raucous few weeks in party politics here in Nevada. Ron Paul loyalists have taken over the Republican Party, prompting donors and volunteers to turn elsewhere. Clark County Republicans censured RNC Chairman Reince Priebus, and now the national folks say they are going to come to Nevada and set up their own, quote, shadow state party. In the meantime, outside political nonprofit groups are arriving in Nevada to fill the void left by the dysfunctional Republican Party. In a few minutes, we'll talk with political consultant Greg Ferraro about what this all means for the presidential race in this battleground state. And are Democrats waiting to take advantage of the opportunity? We'll get the perspective of the Washoe Democrats' former chairman. But first, let's get right to the point with today's first guest. Former Governor Bob List is one of the casualties in Nevada's Ron Paul revolution. 2 weeks ago, he was ousted as Republican National Committee man, losing to a Paul supporter. Governor List joins us now from our newsroom in Las Vegas. Governor List, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Anjanette.
Thanks so much for being here. So 2 weeks ago at the state convention, Ron Paul loyalists kind of culminated this 4-year effort of theirs to take over the state party. You were one of the casualties. They voted you out. They elected most of the national delegates. Now people are pretty nervous. And I'm wondering what's going on here. It looks like chaos.
Well, it is relatively chaotic. There's no question about it. They came to the convention in force. They turned out. They won it fair and square. Frankly, the Romney people and the supporters of many of the other candidates just didn't show up at the county conventions, didn't show up at the state convention, and so the Ron Paul people prevailed and took it over.
Now, as National Committee man, you're basically Nevada's representative to the Republican National Committee. Were you surprised when you lost that election 2 weeks ago?
Not really. It was very clear that the Ron Paul people had a big majority, and they held together, and it was just obvious that they wanted their own people in there. And I'm obviously not a Ron Paul person, so when it came time for the vote, the handwriting was on the wall. My term does continue through the end of the Tampa Convention, the Republican National Convention, and of course I am also chairman of the Budget Committee for the RNC. And so I'll continue that role until the convention's over.
You'll at least get to see the fun in Tampa. Now, in response, you mentioned the National Committee. My colleague John Ralston reported this week that the National Republicans and the Mitt Romney campaign are essentially going to come into Nevada and create their own structure, their own, quote, shadow Republican Party. I want to read you a quote from a Republican strategist that ran in the Las Vegas Sun this week talking about the state party. He said, quote, "They are still bogged down in the minutia of whether Romney will be the presumptive nominee. We don't have time for that when the Obama campaign already is in full campaign mode. We have no use for them." Talking about the state Republican Party. So is this a wise move on the National Republicans' part? Can the state party be functional and get Republicans elected in the state?
Well, first of all, I'm a part of that move at the national level. I've discussed this at length with Reince Priebus, our national chairman, and others, and those of us on the RNC, and I sit on the executive committee there, I think are determined that we'll have our own operation here, and it'll be quite independent from the state party. The state party is very dysfunctional. Frankly, my sympathies are with Michael McDonald, our chairman, because frankly, I don't think they're going to get any support financially or from the mainstream contributors that normally have enabled the party to operate. So it's going to be a very unusual year, but frankly, I think we'll do a very good job of it. The Romney campaign will be organized, and we're going to carry this state.
Do you have any concern about what happens when you do get to the national convention? Although these delegates are bound to vote for Mitt Romney, the majority of them are Ron Paul loyalists.
Well, they are. I think there are going to be probably half a dozen out of the 28 that are Romney supporters personally. Romney's going to win it on the first ballot. I mean, these people are nuts if they think that there'll be a second ballot or that Ron Paul is going to be the nominee. So hopefully they're not going to do anything to embarrass themselves or the state of Nevada.
Well, this has already become quite a bit of a sideshow. Obviously, there's a lot of media attention to what happened at the state convention. The Clark County Republicans called for Reince Priebus to step down because the RNC is assisting Mitt Romney. While it's kind of a circus and a sideshow, how big of a threat is this when you guys head into November? Nevada is a very important battleground state. Barack Obama is organized, has a lot of money. Is this just a sideshow, or is this going to really send you into the general election with a limp?
I think it's a sideshow. I think it's going to be a footnote to history. These people are absolutely screwy. I mean, if they think that the Republican National Committee ought to just sit on its hands and do nothing until the convention is over, they have no sense of reality, because the campaign is in full swing. We can't just sit on it and do nothing and let the Obama people organize and put it all together. I mean, we are coming alongside the Romney campaign. Governor Romney's going to be our nominee. It's very important that they come to reality if they want to be any kind of a force in this election whatsoever. And even Ron Paul knows that. That's what's so bizarre about the behavior of these folks.
So we talked about the new chairman, Michael McDonald, who was elected right before the state convention, largely with a lot of support from the Ron Paul loyalists. There's been a lot of back and forth finger pointing about what the problem with the state party is. And last week, Chairman McDonald put out a statement basically blaming the old leadership, that there were leaders and officers in the state Republican Party that were pursuing their own personal and political agendas instead of getting out and building this turn out the vote machine that parties are needed for. Is Chairman McDonald right? Is this the fault of past leadership in the state party that we've gotten to this point?
No, it's not. We've had a very good staff. We've had a very good grassroots organization, and I think most of that talent is going to be shifted over to the Romney campaign and to the RNC effort, to independent efforts that are going to go forth. So the plans are in place, and the momentum is going to be there. This is a state that has suffered so badly under Obama. We're back in first place again on foreclosures in America. Tremendous job losses in this state. And it all comes about because of this policy that's emanating from the president on down in Washington. And we simply have to carry the state. It's a very important piece of the equation of winning this election.
Now, Chairman McDonald is trying to rescue that. He sees an important role for the state party in winning Nevada for the Republicans. But there's only so much a chairman can do. He's backed by his central committee, which is made up of mostly Ron Paul folks. Should the RNC trust Michael McDonald?
Well, time will tell whether Michael can get the support he needs financially to put together a staff and to put together an organization. If he can overcome the goofiness, the craziness of some of these Ron Paul people and actually raise some money and go forward, more power to him. You know, my hat will be off to him, but that really remains to be seen. He's no doubt struggling with it. He's making as good an effort as he can to try to bring about some unity, but it's a very tough job given the attitude and the behavior and the failure to recognize what it takes to win an election on the part of these very avid Ron Paul people who are more committed to a philosophy, much of which we all share, small government, limited spending, more committed to a philosophy than they are to getting Republicans elected. It's time they got behind Romney.
Now, we can talk about obviously Ron Paul has very passionate followers. They were able to take an opportunity, but that opportunity did kind of present itself that the Republican Party has been kind of leaderless, hasn't been really strong in this state. Now, you told the Las Vegas Sun last week that usually parties work pretty well when a governor or the top Republican elected official really takes a hand and cleans things up, takes a strong leadership role in the party. Governor Sandoval has not really been willing to do that. Do you think he should have stepped up and prevented something like this from happening?
I don't think even Governor Sandoval, as capable and as good a man as he is, could have taken control of this situation. The only thing that would have helped would have been people to turn out. And the governor's doing a great job as governor. but probably made the right decision in not getting involved at this point, because these people are like a swarm of killer bees. They are so determined and so passionate about what they believe that I don't think they'd listen to Governor Sandoval or anybody else. They just have a mind of their own that is pretty confusing for a lot of people.
All right, Governor List, well, that brings us to the end of our segment. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate your perspective.
My pleasure. Thank you, Anjanette.